The editorial director.
It was challenging material, but it was outstanding reporting, and it was clearly in the public interest. We knew they were coming this morning, but the thing I want to emphasise is they weren't invited. They exercised a warrant, and we view this as a very unwelcome development.
Thousands of documents have been downloaded. Is that concerning for you?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Thousands of documents have been downloaded from your servers. Is that concerning?
Well, I haven't had that confirmed, so it's not something I would comment on. I'm not one of those who are with them as they wander around the building, so I haven't heard that.
Given that this is 2 years old, is this...
Individual journalists being targeted, how are they?
Well, any time something like this happens, it's really disconcerting. The other message I want to emphasise is I think for all of us in the media, sometimes when we talk about, press freedom, to people who aren't in the media, that can sound like a bit of a cliche. And we had AFP officers arriving today in suits. They were perfectly polite. But we should feel uncomfortable about this. We are here at the national public broadcaster, and the Australian Federal Police have exercised a search warrant. And that ought to feel uncomfortable. It ought to be disconcerting. And to answer your question, it is concerning for our colleagues, for Dan and for Sam, and for Gavin Morris, the Director of News, who's also named in the warrant.
How do you feel about the time?
Well, we're all concerned to support our colleagues. We take our jobs very seriously. We act lawfully, and we act in the interests of good public interest journalism. And so, it is very, very concerning.
Given that this is 2 years old, this story now, is this interesting timing?
I've no comment on whether it's interesting timing, other than to say that it is 2 years ago. As I understand it, they're relying on Section 79 of the Crimes Act, which was repealed to add a public interest defence. Now, that public interest defence wasn't part of the legislation when we did the reporting. So I think that's notable, but as to why the warrant's been exercised now, you'd have to talk to the Federal Police.
John Lyons has tweeted that some of the documents that they're talking about seizing and looking at include scripts, drafts, things that usually wouldn't ever seize in light of day beyond newsroom. How concerning is it that those internal and often confidential resources are going to be looked at?
Well, a search warrant is a search warrant, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about whether there is anything concerning there because, frankly, I've written a lot of scripts over the years that I'd be quite happy for the authorities to have because they weren't very interesting. So it's difficult to actually answer that question without actually knowing in more detail what exactly has been seized. Volume doesn't necessarily indicate that there's anything particularly sensitive. It's very disturbing.
That is Craig McMurtrie, the editorial director of the ABC there, speaking after the AFP raids. They're chasing up those stories on Afghanistan. Craig McMurtrie saying that it's deeply unsettling to have AFP officers investigating and raiding and examining the offices of the national broadcaster's editorial staff. He said the officers were in suits and perfectly polite, but he said people interested in press freedom should be deeply troubled by this development. An interesting discussion to have here. As I said, I don't find it particularly surprising, but it is something we need to be very, very careful about and we'll hear more about in coming days.